So I'm back with the useEffect again. I did one tiny bit of a change here. The counter was hard-coded and now I created a button and the counter is only visible when the state is true, and this needed to be done because I want to cover the case where the component is unmounted, so it's deleted from the fiber structure and from later on in the painting phase from the DOM. And there is another bug encountering. So when you mount, it works fine. So from effect, let's clear it. But when we unmount it, actually I expect only the cleanup value to be ran, but that's not the case. So first run the clean, and then again it runs the normal effects. So in order to fix that, I think we can do something like if effect dot effect tag not equals deletion, maybe. Yeah, deletion. So I think that case, if I unmount it, then only the cleanup runs, which is kind of expected. So that's one less thing to worry about. But now comes the interesting part, which is so we can have this other thing, this input stuff, and the whole idea around that is to skip the create function from running. So you don't wanna run the function all the time, only if the given value differs in some way. So it's either undefined or an array. So what we need to do is first we need to determine based on the input argument whether we need to initiate a call in the painting phase. So there are a few scenarios, I suppose. So let's think about it. So actually the const, let's call it is different, and let's const is different, and we call it with the input from above, and actually we can create a prev input, which is prev input can it be equal to prev effect dot input, I think. So input and prev input. Okay, and let's create this function here. Const is different with input and prev input. Okay, so let's just console log these two things out. I expect both of them to be undefined, just to be sure what's going on. Okay, undefined, great. Is okay. So what happens if we pass an array with the value onto it? So now I expect it to be I don't know. So is it undefined? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, yeah, obviously, because the first iteration only this branch will run, so the previous input will always be undefined, and that is the current input. So if I click on increment, then the first should be an array with the first element of 1, and this should be an array with the first element of 0. Yeah, great. So now we have the inputs, and what we need to do is we need to iterate through the array, check if they are equal, and make sure that at least one of them is not equal, and return that, or something like that, right? So that's one case. So how to do this is, I don't know, maybe maybe what we can do is while index is lesser than input dot length, and still and already different. Maybe that's not the best naming convention. Different, not. So what I want to do is want to iterate through, but this is kind of an escape hatch. So if I set it to so if it's already different, then we don't need to iterate through, because we already have so we already need to rerun the whole, we already need to run the effect in place. So what I want to do is let index equals 0, obviously, and we need to increment it in every iteration in order to avoid infinite loops. And so what I want to do is I want to compare it, so it's just gonna be basic equality, like 3 equals. What I want to do is input at index equals input at index equals prev input at index, if but if that is not the case, let already different equals false. But if it's the case, then I can set already different to true, and that will stop the loop running. And if it's never the case, then we iterate through the whole array, and already different will remain false, and is different will be return already different, is different, so is different, so I want to return true. Yeah, so I just need to return already different, I suppose. We'll see. Country property 0 of undefined. Yeah, okay, so the problem is that in the first render, the prev input is undefined, right? So if prev input is undefined, is prev input undefined, just simply return true. Because that indicates that this is the first render, at least. It can be undefined later, but that simply means that the input was undefined at some previous render, and if it is undefined, then the second argument was not specified, so you need to return true anyways. So now if I set increment, so I want to console of the isDiff, is diff true, is diff true, is diff true, is diff true, okay? But what if I put a static thing onto your, like a string of value that is static all the time? So it's true because it's the initial render, then it became false. Good. What if it's a static value and a value that changes over time? So it's true on the first initial render and true afterwards because some value, at least one value, changes over time. Okay, I think the logic is good enough. Okay, and we have another case when if it's an empty array, then we need only to run it on component did mount. So that's a special case when the array is array prev no, the prev input will be undefined. No. Okay, so but I need to check it. So input. So if input is an array, and because the prev input undefined will pick up all the initial renders, so it's going to be true. So in the consequent renders, if the input is an array and input length equals 0, then just return false, because then we only wanna render it on mounting, which is covered here, and unmounting will need to be covered in a specific case. So let's just give it a go. So it will be an empty array. So first I expect it to be true, so it's true, but in increment it will be false, false, false. Okay, good stuff. So I think we covered the cases. True and from effect. Okay. So what we need to do, we need to modify our logic a bit. So if is different, then simply and else do something. Okay. Okay, so if it is not different, instead of having a passive effect, useState effect, let's just put there no effect. Okay, but that it won't change a thing, right? Because we're not modifying the painting phase at all. But now we should do something here, which is we don't want to do anything. So if hook.effect equals passive effect, then do this. Okay, so I think we will see a from effect because it's true, but if I click on increment, nothing should happen. It's just some false, but nothing happens in unmounting. So yeah. So what we need to do is we wanna actually we should have the fiber console logged out. So let's have a look. What is the fiber at the moment? Current fiber. Okay. So let's do some thing and let's have a look at the fiber. So we have memory state, hey, and we have it here. So as you can see, we have passive effect here, no effect there. So what we want to do in this case, we should call the destroy on deletion. So if effect tag equals deletion, then we just simply want to call this, I suppose, and not this one but the destroy. So we want to call this bit, and since it will be destroyed and garbage collected, we don't have to do anything with it. So now if I increment this, it's false, so it has no effect. But if I unmount it, the cleanup phase was called. That's good. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now what if I put greeting here? So only do a re-render when the greeting changes. Oh, and one more thing. I hope that the cleanup was 0, so it should be cleanup 0. So bunch of things and cleanup 0. Okay, nice. So what if I put greeting here? So now there is a initial from effect here. I can put a bunch of increment. Everything is false. Almond. Okay. Okay, so I put a bunch of increment here. I do set greeting. It says cleanup and from effect 15. Sweet. I do a bunch of increment. Every one of them is false. And now I unmount it and clean up 15. Okay. I think it works as expected. Now the only thing I need to do is creating this passive effect and no effect as a constant. Get rid of the console logs. Also it can be done as is if none, then it should do some things. And also I can directly call it here. Okay. Alright. From effect, increment, unmount, increment, set greeting. Okay. Alright, so constants, fiber effect tag, new file index.js, export const, no effect equals no effect, and export const to passive effect. Okay, in the index I can do it like this. Alright, can close this, can close this. We need import from constants, passive effect and no effect. And we can change effect, passive effect, passive effect, no effect. Do the same thing here. Passive effect. Okay, so gathers effects that has an update queue. Okay. If it is a normal effect, call the destroy method first. If any, then call the effect and assign the cleanup function. Prevent calling the effect function if it is an unknown. Okay. On no effect, only call the effect function if it is a deletion. Okay, I think that file is done. The effect from the prev render cycle. Okay. Assign the destroy from the prev cycle to the current one. If we need to skip the effect, use a different effect tag to signal that. Okay, and we need the isDifferent function. That's gonna be the last one. So isDifferent takes an input, which is something like that, and takes a prev input, returns a boolean. So actually, let's do something like returns true on the initial render. That's kind of the component did mount. Returns false if the input is an empty array and this is not the initial render. Iterates through the arrays, does a check and breaks the iteration if at least one value differs. Returns true if at least one is different, false otherwise. Okay, so guys, that's for hooks. I mean, there are a lot of different things like use layout effect, use callback and stuff, user, which is actually in the original implementation. useState is a very simplified use reducer, so it's absolutely not implemented the way I did it. useRef, I think useRef is an easy one. It just simply gives us back a reference that normally createRefs gives you. So, but I think the fundamental concept is definitely something alike, which I created here. So that's it. I definitely gonna take a break now, and I may come back creating the context API, but I'm just gonna wrap it up here. So I think we created quite a lot of things. So we covered from pretty much from scratch. It was built up. So I again like to thank for everyone who created these really great blog posts and articles about how fiber is created. So it was a huge inspiration for me. I also want to thank for the podcast and the videos I was able to watch, and obviously the React source code I was digging into. So I hope you guys enjoyed the whole series, and that would be it. I'd like to close it now, and as I said, I might revisit it with the context API. I just like to wrap it up now. If you have any questions, anything at all that you like to see it in the future, I might be able to dig into it, or anything that is really not the way it's supposed to be, just feel free to write me somewhere, like either a mail or onto the comments, or anywhere basically. So thanks for watching this, and have a good day. Bye bye.